most relationships fail? Wait a minute, I have to first turn this on. Then I can continue. Okay. Why do most relationships fail? Why is it so hard to maintain a relationship? Where did it go wrong? More and more people are getting single. Let me share with you something interesting. Jan Latten, a professor in demographic, stated that in 2050, 50% of the Dutch population will be single. Interesting, right? Actually, it's a bit scary. So why is this? A woman recently asked me, what is love? Does it hold the same definition as it had 20, 30, 40 years ago? Did we go from loving each other to only loving ourselves? In my research, to answers to these questions, I discovered that relationships are not valued the same as our predecessors did. So I kept going and looking for answers, and after speaking to hundreds of people at my practice, even visiting their homes and interviewing them, I noticed one thing. There was one thing that they all had in common. The relationship that they're in is not what they had expected. So, what can we do to restore our current situation? Here's my take on how we can make love return back into our hearts and make a relationship work again. First of all, let us put it back on top of our priority list. This alone will make you want each other more. Believe me, you can ask my wife. And secondly, let us give it the attention that it needs to grow. And thirdly, let us reconsider our expectation to what a relationship should be. And last but not least, let us not be hard on ourselves and on each other. Before I go, I want to leave you with a beautiful quote from Celine Dion. She said in one of her songs, the song is called "That's the Way It Is." Don't surrender, because you can win in this thing called love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmed. Any of the judges have a question for Mr. Ahmed?
One question for you. What made you start to this research? What triggered you?
My own situation. When I married in 2010, everything was fine. We went to the best restaurant, we had a lot of fun. And after 2 years, I faced a lot of disappointments. The pressure in my marriage began to grow, and I didn't want to stay in that situation. So I looked for ways to make it better, to increase my life, the situation that I'm in. I didn't want to stay in it. So I looked for ways, and little by little, I discovered what works and what does not work, and I implemented in my life. And I said to myself, what's the point in having a lot of knowledge that works for you and only keeping it for yourself? So I want to spread it, and that's my message.
I also have a question. In the 11th of November is a Singles Day,
Okay.
and you just mentioned that half of the population will be single in a few years. How bad is that? I mean, if that's the new modern way of living, why don't embrace it?
I think the relationship is trying to make its way into our new way of living and our new way of thinking. And it finds its struggles, but of course you can embrace it, but you can also question it. If it's harming you, or you are in a situation that you don't like, you can change it, and you have the capacity to do that. So it's all about making people aware of that they're in charge of their lives. That's all.
Thank you. Does anybody in the audience have a question for him? Because they see.
Sorry. What do you think about AI?
AI? I don't know what that means.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
So probably he means.
I don't have any opinion on that.
Or maybe
I think it's good. I don't know. We'll see.
Does anybody else in the audience have a question for Mr.
So
Ahmed?
does Google do anything with you?
Okay, we are going to go to another question. Thank you, sir. Does anybody else in the audience has a question for Mr. Ahmed? No? Yes, over there. Your name is?
Hey. Whoa. Well, I actually don't know if I really have a question, but I wonder what you define as being single. Because, for example, I'm single, but for me it's a practice to love more people unconditionally. So, could you say that I'm single and one of those problems? I just wonder.
Okay. Being single is not a problem. If that is what's making you happy, then it's good. It's all about how you want to live your life. And if you want to live your life with somebody, then you have to make the best out of it. And if you want to live your life all by yourself, that's also good, but it's about how can you improve the quality of your life, even if it's with somebody else. That's all.
Does that answer your question? Yes. Thank you. Does anybody else in the audience have a question? Also there in the back. We have a lot of people with questions for you. A lot of people with help. Your name is? Hi, Yazid.
I actually thought that what the guy in the front was saying was very interesting because he was talking about AI, and I don't know if you've seen the movie Her, but in a way, I think he's talking about technology taking over human beings. So single life is, I think, maybe in a way what you're talking about, or maybe you want to talk about, is about this short-term satisfaction instead of a long-term satisfaction. And I think this, like the robot, the AI, could be something that could replace a human being. And I was very interested in what you thought about that. To elaborate his question. Actually, I'm very interested in what you thought about that.
We cannot look into the future and see what's coming. We see that technology is developing very fast, and we have to embrace it, of course, because the time is ticking and we're going forward. But we also have to get our brains to work and think for ourselves and see how we can make the best out of that situation. So it's all about how you want to develop in that area.
What I mean is, what is your opinion on technology replacing and kind of the algorithms mimicking the love of human beings? What?
I don't want to replace my wife for anything.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a question? Yes.
We were joking about you were saying Dr. Love. What is your medicine, or what is your prescription? Because you said you found out some secrets or ways of getting your marriage successful, or at least pleasing again for you. So could you just give us some tips?
I don't know if it's approved to say, but I wrote a whole book on this subject,
Yeah.
so you can read it. A lot of tips. I think the most common thing is the thing that is going to help people the best is always to stay positive and listen to another, and also try to learn from another. Just don't be the one who's just making the laws, but also do it together. Everything that you do together, you speak together, you act together, you're moving forward together, and being able to also learn from the other, that will help help your relationship the most. Always stay positive, that's what I say. You know, things can go sideways, but you have the capacity to, adjust it the way you both want it to be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Does anybody else have a question? No? Everybody else just has a perfect relationship. All right, thank you, Ahmed. That brings us to our next speaker of